Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Full Potential Show. I'm James Rick, and this is your number one non-boring source for personal development. And today on the line, we have Patricia Varley. She's a speaker, trainer, and author, and she's a certified Edgewalker, which we'll talk about here in a moment. She guides and supports others in transitioning between the mainstream business culture and what is evolving on the planet at this transformative time in history. No doubt, this should be an interesting interview. And today, we're going to talk about how you can get a freebie at the end of this interview, the assessment and questionnaire on edgewalking. So without further ado, Patricia, thank you so much for being on today's Full Potential Show.
You're welcome, James, and hello to all of you that are listening in today or watching, I should say. Thank you for making the time to be with us. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun today. Let's talk about diving in and what is it? What is an edgewalker?
Well, an edgewalker are people and organizations, and this comes from the subtitle of the book that was written by a colleague of mine, Dr. Judy Neal, people and organizations that are willing to take risks, build bridges between the worlds, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and break new ground. And I am so inspired by this work. I've been a advocate of what I call spirit in the workplace and bringing ethics into business for about 20 years as a coach and a speaker myself. And my colleague Judy Neal wrote this book called Edgewalkers, and I said, I'm an edgewalker. I always was sort of looking for a way in which I could, not that I needed to put myself into a box, but it was a definition that really spoke to me. And what that means is that edgewalkers often are the people on the cutting edge, or that are the head of the wave, you might say, that are willing to take the risks and what I say is build bridges between the worlds. So let me explain what that means, James. To build bridges between the worlds means the physical world, the spiritual world, to step out of the box. They often will look at things from a vantage point or a perspective that, let's say, mainstream maybe isn't able to see. They access their intuition. A lot of it is like almost like a corporate, every modern day shaman.
Okay.
So if you look at what a shaman does, they bring different information back to the tribe.
And so these edgewalkers, then they're kind of on the fringe. They're more zoomed out. They're not outcasts. They're just on the very fringe, and they're looking in. And what can they do that's different from people that are maybe inside of the they're not walking on the edge. They're inside the box, so to speak.
Well, it's interesting because I think what's needed now, and I know the title of your program, which I love, is Full Potential, is that the world, as we know, the business climate, leadership, our professional lives, everything, the financial structure is in massive change right now. And not to say that edgewalkers are better or worse, it's one approach. So I want to really stress that to your listeners, but that the ability to step out of the consciousness in the way that we've been thinking, which honestly hasn't worked. It's not sustaining at this point anyway. It's maybe worked for a while. And to access other information, most edgewalkers look like everybody else. It's not like we're necessarily off in la la land, but it's the willingness and the connectedness to access other information and almost like step back and look at, let's say, a corporate culture or a coaching client or a government or a leadership situation from a vantage point that accesses what I would call awareness and play and creativity, having more visioning, which is really about breaking the new ground, the ability to be sensing the future. These are all some of the qualities of an edgewalker.
Okay, and so let's talk about how folks that are watching today that kind of like this idea, kind of sounds a little, hip, to do edge walking in today's world, especially it sounds so needed. Where can you start? Let's say you like the idea and concept, but now you want to start practically applying it in your life, whether you're a business owner, whether just in your individual life, you say, hey, I want to start walking on the edge of my life or my business and seeing things from a new perspective. Where do you suggest people start and start doing this and applying it?
Well, the question's really great, James, because it's about, first of all, the willingness to do that. A lot of people aren't doing that. So it's to say, wait a minute, can I step away? Can I regroup and look at my professional life, my business, my financial world, what I'm contributing in the world from a vantage point? So the first thing is having the awareness and the willingness to do that.
Okay.
So then you step back honestly and say, what's working, what's not working? What can I let go of? Sometimes to be an Edgewalker, it means creating the space for new ideas, letting go of the old way that things used to be. That's comfortable. We all have our comfort zone. So it's willing to say, if I'm more creative in my thinking, if I'm more collaborative with my colleagues, if I engage the intelligence and the spiritual intuition of my team, can I come up with more creative solutions that make me more competitive in the marketplace, more of a contributor, that access all of our and also visioning for the future. A lot of what Edgewalkers do, and it's funny, but for anyone listening, if you've ever felt like maybe you ever heard the expression a stranger on a strange land, or you maybe haven't really had a chance to speak up, and you have an idea and you're afraid what your colleagues might think. It takes courage. I want to speak to all of you out there to step out of the box a bit. So, but yet it's those ideas that are different that are being called now for this evolutionary time that we're in, because Albert Einstein said to do the same thing in the same way over and over and expect a different result becomes insanity.
Right.
And these are times that are calling us to really step into our full potential.
Great point.
The willingness and courage, and also the creativity to do that.
Okay, so first you have this awareness that, okay, there's a different perspective out there, and there's a different way of doing things. So first there's that awareness. Then secondly, it's like, all right, I know it's different from what I'm used to, and we are creatures of habits, but I'm going to be willing to try this new method of doing things. And one of the first things that you do, it sounds like, is you start letting go of the old way of doing things. So in this process, you're starting to create a vision for the future and access people's potential at all levels and their intuition, and being open to whatever that might mean, because sometimes people come up with some pretty crazy ideas. And then that takes courage for both the people that are participating as well as this leader who's kind of maybe taking things in a new direction, and just recognize it's going to take courage to not only step out and go through this process, but to maybe start implementing some of these things as well.
Absolutely. And a lot of what I'm a big part of being an Edgewalker is creating, and that's why I love what you're doing, James, because to have venues in which we can come together to support each other, to teach, to learn, to grow, because we need each other now. We always did, but to really collaborate. This is not about competition. It's about joining our spirits and our forces, our education, our intellect, our vision, and to come together. So a big part of being an Edgewalker, and again, it's not that these qualities don't apply to something else, but it's about really being more collaborative. How can we connect with one another and support each other in moving beyond what we've been doing? It's about evolving our consciousness so that we can have a different result. And so many people, the thing about the Edgewalker model is it creates an environment, if it's allowed in a business culture or an organization, to access people's full potential, because it's not about threatening the leader or threatening the organization. It's about how can we look at things differently to be more expanded, not to threaten what we've done. And I as a coach and a speaker myself, I've worked with a lot of companies and also entrepreneurs in helping them. We all have a comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with it. But many of us are finding that that's not working anymore. So what's next?
Right.
So this is one approach that I was so inspired by the work that Dr. Judy Neal wrote, along with the other things that I do, that I wanted to have this as a facilitator and a coach to help access people's potential to the next level.
So let's talk more about how we can expand this and actually apply it, because I think it does, from an overview perspective. I mean, it sounds like a great new approach, and it sounds like there's many people out there, many organizations out there that can use this to kind of tap into that, the evolving source, if you will, because the world is changing. Right. The world is changing. The world has a need to change. The world has a need for old structures to fall away, and this is going to aid that process. So let's talk about, now you're taking courage to step out of the box. You're accessing people's potential. You're creating this environment for them to start voicing their ideas and creating an environment where they're actually starting to apply some of these ideas. Are there, right now, it is what appears to be a little abstract. I mean, we're creating this supportive environment and everything. Is there a specific, I guess my logical left brain would say, what are the steps?
Yeah.
You know, what are the steps to creating this environment, to engaging people to share their ideas that takes it to the next level? Is there a process, or maybe is it just the overall idea that this is what we need to do?
Well, it's a little bit of both. And I mean, initially I wanted to talk about the concept, but you know, what's interesting is I was listening to you, I thought that in any business, let's say in any business environment, if you're your own boss, that's one thing, because you're the president of your own company, whatever that looks like. But if you work for an organization or a company, the leader, the person in charge, this is why I work a lot with leaders, because if the leaders aren't open to shifting, the team could do all that they want, but still the main person of influence and decision, or the stockholders or whatever, also kind of need to be on board. So I would think that this is a little bit of a process of step-by-step of awareness, also integrity. I'm working with leaders on transforming, but to be in integrity and to be less in their, I don't know how to say this, less in their egos and more in their hearts, and more in a place of contributing. So you say, okay, if a leader or anybody who's a business owner, even if is listening, to put your ego aside and recognize, why are you doing what you're doing? Number one, what is your mission? What is your contribution to the world? To identify what your purpose is in your work. And that's also part of an Edgewalker. It's more about contribution than survival. And I think a lot of companies now are in survival mode. So if you can identify what's our purpose, what are our end results we want, and then to start to add a space where creativity, intuition, even playfulness. I mean, I've worked with organizations where I've had people in play and in creativity to find answers to problems. So there's a lot of steps we can do. Do vision boards, come together as a group and revisit the mission. Because sometimes we get in such a groove, like the comfort zone I talked about, but maybe creating a meeting or a time where we can come together and revision and saying, wait a minute, do we need to look at our mission differently? What is our mission? What are we hoping to have as a result? And the other thing is, are we really meeting the needs of the marketplace, and has it changed? Because maybe what we've been doing for 10 years isn't really what the market wants anymore, or maybe we're not accessing the full potential of our staff. So you mentioned the giveaway, but this is actually a part of the step. In the giveaway, I was wanting to offer to your listeners or anyone watching today what I call the Edgewalker questionnaire and assessment. And this will give you a little more of the concrete, am I an Edgewalker? What are the qualities, some of the steps that would begin to create a framework of what could be next? And I normally don't just give that away because it's something that I got as a certified coach, but I'm happy to offer that to anyone who's listening in as a way to create a bit of a reflection of, well, am I an Edgewalker? Do I have those qualities? How can I step forward in the next step? Okay, so I'd like to offer that.
How do people take advantage of that generous offer, Patricia?
It's if you go on my website, which is Patricia Varley, it's one word, Patricia, and Varley.
We'll put it up on the website, on the
Varley.com. Yeah, PatriciaVarley.com, and that I will say I was on your show, and James Rick show, and that they heard and saw me here, and I will be happy to email it to them.
Okay, that's PatriciaVarley.com. You should be able to contact her right there on the question and assessment for knowing or discovering how to be an Edgewalker. And I just want to run down some of we got the key idea of what it means to be an Edgewalker, and then some kind of specific steps to start implementing it. And then I'm sure they can follow through on patriciavarley.com or work with you to kind of take it to the next level. So just to kind of go back, it's the awareness and willingness to do it, to be an Edgewalker, to know that it exists, to operate from this place, letting go of old ways of doing things, visioning for the future, being willing to tap into your people's potential if you're a business owner or a leader, because without your willingness to hear the voices of your people, it's not going to happen. Because if they voice that they want to be an Edgewalker, you're not going to hear it. And then collaborating and creating an environment that allows people to live their full potential, recognizing that as a group, you're smarter than any one individual. And then this involves, as a leader, putting your ego aside. And I think there's no greater summation than that. I mean, basically, the only reason why you wouldn't give people around you a voice is if your ego was so full of itself that it thought it had all the answers. And then once you've allowed this creativity or this collaboration to flow, now you can create an environment of creativity and intuition with vision boards and open questions that will allow you to continue to evolve your mission and your values and sort of the direction that you're taking it into the marketplace, whatever your offer is. And you know what? In that kind of environment, you might be able to create some really cool offers you never thought of before or that were really outside of the box. But in the end, isn't that what, really transforms not only a business, but the marketplace in general? Just, offering things that maybe the market didn't even know that they wanted, kind of like Apple. So I think out of this space comes some really great things, and you're certainly creating the structure that will allow some amazing things to happen. So Patricia, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up today's interview?
I just thought that was an awesome, that was a great summation. Thank you. You did a terrific job. And I just invite people that leaders or anyone listening that this is a time in the world. My last thought is like this, it kind of is a scary time for a lot of people because there's so much chaos and there's so much unknown. But it's a time of huge potential. That's why your show is so timely and so great. Because when things fall apart and break down, like we said, in the breakdown, in the building of the bridges, in the taking risks is new possibility. It's new potential. It's new solutions. It's also new results. Because clearly the way we've done things, though it lasted for a while, we're being asked to change. So it's a time of, it's all in how you choose to see it. So whether you're an Edgewalker or not, whether you're not, you want to define yourself, trust your heart, access your gut, your soulfulness is what I would say, but also trust your mind and be willing as a conscious leader, as an awakened person, to access and listen to create the space to step out of your own box, because we all have so much more potential than we're accessing. I'm sure you'd agree with me, James.
Amen.
And the world could shift in a heartbeat if we all just said, okay, I'm willing to step up and step out and move out of my own comfort zone. And it's also one last thing, it's integration. It's connecting the head, the voice, the heart, the gut, the mind. It's bringing it more holistically all together in the business model.
So there it is. The potential's there. The potential is great. You have to have the willingness and the environment to allow it to flourish. But we all are like the seeds, that are there, and there's just
absolutely
the potential is there, but we've got to nurture it and integrate, like you said, all the different aspects of ourselves. It's not just one compartment, and that's why either you have so much conflict going on inside, and that's why you're not getting anywhere, or as you learn to integrate, you're on track and you can feel it in all parts of your being. So as an Edgewalker, maybe you bring it all together for folks. Patricia, thank you so much for being on today's Full Potential Show.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Appreciate
been a pleasure having you. And everybody who wants to take advantage of the super special free offer, you can go to patriciavarley.com, and she will give you a question and assessment that will help you become your own full potential Edgewalker. Thanks again for being on the show, Patricia.
Thanks, James.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of the Full Potential Show, your number one non-boring source for personal development. I'm James Rick, and if you want to get more positive programming for your brain absolutely free on a weekly basis, just visit fullpotential.com.
If you like the Full Potential Show, you're going to love the Full Potential Club. What would you like most as a Full Potential Club member? Be 2 to 3 times more productive? Do what you're passionate about? Have more energy? Reduce your work hours? Travel the world? Enjoy an amazing lifestyle on a frugal budget? What if you could do them all? James Rick has been there and done it in ways that few people have. For anyone serious about taking their life or business to the next level, you've got to do more than just watch. You've got to do. Join James Rick and other like-minded people for an incredible $10 a month at fullpotential.com/club. Be educated. Be empowered. Be the best version of you. fullpotential.com/club. Try it free for 30 days.